Hey, John. Oh, GalaxyBlade. I thought I fired you. Maybe. But listen, I can't take another Geet situation. What do you mean? Sales went good. If anything, we spent more money making the gimmicks than selling them. Yeah, well, that didn't translate well to the later half of the story now, did it? So, I've come to pitch you the next Rider series. You mean Gotchard? Well, I've already got some Ultra Men working on that one. Wait a second, before you go too far, I've looked over those draft pages. Those cards? Great! Definitely going to drive up that FOMO in making randomized packs. Yes. Except, we're selling them by the boxes that are guaranteed to give you at least a couple of rares and ultra rares. Wait, wouldn't that lead to people just drowning in dupes? Yes, but they'll just keep buying more. And when you think that they're all out, then we release a pack that ends up being nothing but rares. Wouldn't that just make early adopters mad? Screw the early adopters, I'm John Toei. Wow, okay, really forgot what the working environment in Toei was. But look, obviously the show has to be of quality to sell those toys and cards, right? Well, you see, that's why we're going ahead and releasing the cards a month before the show even debuts. But what if the show is bad? I'm sorry? What if the show is bad? Money is as money does. So, why are you still here? Listen here, John. I used to be all about the money like you. But you can't expect me to commit to a year of substance of content that isn't enjoyable. So please, let me make sure that Gotchard is good. Listen, you've got 5 minutes. Then after those 5 minutes, I'm gonna have to charge you per minute. Female protagonist, get out. Okay, male protagonist, but we'll have a female co-lead. Both are children of well-renowned alchemists. I'm thinking we take the Full Metal Alchemist approach, but in modern day. But instead of a tale of two siblings, we'll do it with two people of similar backgrounds, but different pathways until they intersect. You're not gonna make this some love story, are you? No, but the lead, Hotaro, will have a father that's actually a legendary alchemist who existed over 120 years before. So how old is Hotaro then? 100 years old? 17. Okay, then how old is his mom? I'm thinking like late 40s, early 50s? Yeah, no, scrap that. I'll keep the illusion that he's like the son of some big shot alchemist. But his mom is just some regular ass mom. But that makes no sense! Sure, then how about we just do some memory wipe Men in Black thingy and there we go. That explains it for him. But you'll have to restore his memories at some point! What then? We'll figure something out. Go on though. Okay, so the female lead is Rine, and her father read her the legends of Hotaro's dad. The legendary alchemist. Okay. So they attend school, but there's a secret alchemist school that's attached to it, run by the Alchemist Society. Now Rine, our co-lead, is already in the class, but Hotaro got scouted because even though he had his memory wiped, their teacher is well aware of his origins. So you're pulling a Naruto? Yes? No. No. Don't like that at all. How about we have a parallel world? Parallel world. Okay. Old guy's there making a driver. That could be Rine's dad. And he gets assaulted by some bad guys. So yeah, bad guys. The Dark Sisters. I'm thinking we give them ancient attire to symbolize their age. Kind of like the Pillar Men from JoJo's. Yes. And one of them will be played by a 9-year-old, and she is the oldest one of the siblings. You're really pulling the 1,000-year-old dragon trope? Oh, no, not by any means. They're all around 10 years old. I'm sorry, what? But the other two will be played by actresses in their 20s. What? How does that make any sense? Why would they be wearing what they're wearing then? Well, don't worry about it. What else you got? All right, so look, I've got some lore into the backstory of this world. Ready? Okay. In the distant past, 3 alchemists sought the power of the Philosopher's Stone. One of them was the founder of alchemy, the other the founder of astrology, and the last one has the power of advanced arts and the creator of the chemies. Once they attained the Philosopher's Stone, they shed their human forms and merged into a dark entity known as the Dark King, creating homunculi to do their bidding. This was until they were driven back and sealed by the legendary alchemist of the dawn. That was 120 years ago. Now, only one of their homunculi, Gideon, remains as he infiltrates the now flourishing alchemist society, creating his own homunculi in the process and seeking to free his masters. Yeah, no, this is a show for kids. Kids don't care about lore. But Agito did it! Blade did it! So many shows did it! Yeah, but kids 20 years ago are just built differently than the kids nowadays. The attention spans have gone a little bit smaller. So, I'm just gonna end up using bits of this, probably, maybe, not at all, and just let people figure it out using their own imagination. So listen, I'll just take this Gideon guy and make him care about gold, because who doesn't want a lot of gold, am I right? And you're missing a vital point in all of this. The chemies. I'm trying to sell cards. Well, then how about those chemies are sealed 10 years before the season, and they were created from folks messing in alchemy. It'll be a good chance for us to have several chemies get made throughout the show from people just messing around with alchemy but not knowing how to handle it right. Thus, we have Hotaro and Rine actually end up creating their own chemi that will lead to a team power-up between the two of them. Listen, we've got cards of all kinds, from plants to vehicles to matching pairs, and you've got yourself a form. You know, I saw the drafts, but exactly how many chemies are y'all starting with? 100. What? So we're getting 50 forms from the get-go? Sure, we gotta sell those toys. Is there even budget for that many? Absolutely not. But hey, toys! What about the chemies themselves? They're like Pokemon, they just say their names. And you're gonna animate them all? Like 5, the rest are just gonna be floating PNGs. And you're okay with that? Do the kids care? No. After all, remember, I am John Toei. Wait, you got cards that are actually Kamen Riders. This is just, not gonna be implemented into the show, right? This is just a regular gimmick, like they normally do, right? Yes, we're going to be celebrating 5 years of Reiwa by making a new version of Decade. What? In the show. Oh, but of course. I can just see it now. Dimension-hopping rich guy who bathes in a bathtub filled with diamonds. Can you just imagine the balls this guy's gonna have? Boy. Revives was only like a couple years ago! And before that we had D.O! You know how many anniversaries we've celebrated in this... This is gonna be a train wreck, isn't it? Storytelling-wise? Sure. Listen, I'm like Shigeru Miyamoto and Mario games. Who cares about the story if the graphics are nice? But from what you're telling me, the graphics won't even be nice! Neither are Nintendo's, but they're still making money. Oh, by the way, you're keeping up with Outsiders, right? Why? Well, I am tying it all together. Outsiders will be canon to Gotchard. I'm trying to let my boy Takahashi get tenure. I've made a mistake. I've ruined the timeline even more than I thought. Don't worry, Blade. Once you're done checking to see if Geats is good, I've got a brand new role for you. After all, you are the brains of this whole Gotchard operations now. So I might as well give you a special role in the project. No, let's go check and see if Geats is good yet!
Many months later.
I sense a disturbance in the time stream. Could it be another Time Lord? Could it be? Anyway. I need to finish working on this Gotchard video. Who knew that this would be what it was? Huh? Anyway, I'm definitely gonna need you. You're my 1000th can. Don't let me down. We gotta get through. You want to go ahead and copy my assets? Well, go ahead and try! Enough distractions. Let's just fast forward a couple of months.
It looks like I'm blasting off for the first time!
Really? You're doing this? Zio, I know you're in there. Come on now. It's time. We gotta talk Gotchard. It's over.
It went from mid to just awful.
Listen, at the end of the day, you called this. You definitely called all of this. So just take the dub and get that shining form already.
But time travel shenanigans.
Just come on. Just take the dub.
All right. Let's do this.
Oh my god! Shining form! Okay, all right, look. It's too bright. It's too bright. Tone it down. Tone it down. Okay, well, I guess I'll just do this in base. So I guess it's time. Finally. Gotchard. It's over. I wouldn't actually be so fast to talk because we've got a director's cut, some V cinemas, and even more space. Some people. It's over. Gotchard is over. And boy, did it fumble the landing. And look, I've been watching these shows for many years, and never have I felt so much dissatisfaction and time waste than I have with this entry of the franchise. So let's see. Last time I covered the episode was what, 35? So I've got 15 episodes to recap. Let's speed run this thing real fast. 36. The Alchemist Association wants the scoop on what happens when Gigas shows up to fuck shit up, while realizing that Spanner has the same powers as him. Hotaro and the gang get more chemis when Gigas goes over Quartzer on Hotaro, while also claiming that Hotaro is carrying his egg that he left 120 years ago, and reuse Malcolms. See? 37. The new Malcolms make the chemis monochrome, so that makes Hotaro sad, until his mom gives him a pep talk. Meanwhile, Gigas pokes the bear of Atropos by calling her daddy problems child's play. Hotaro beats my least favorite card. Hopper 1 gets Malcolmized, and Hotaro beats the color off of him so hard that he eggs himself up. You know what? B, because Ant Trooper got beat. 38. Hotaro's an egg, and gets speculation that the 101st Chemi was hidden inside his driver. So, while inside that egg, another egg talks to him. While Gigas tells Spanner that he's his great-great-great-great-grandpa. Also, he snatches up random chemis that hadn't been attained yet. Just like that. All this while Egg tells Hotaro that he doesn't like what he's seen outside and doesn't want to be born. That is, until he gets some imaginary home cooking and transports ourselves to the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 and giving us Rainbow, Gotchard's debut, and restoring the color to the chemis. D. Really disappointing debut for a final form. 39. Gigas has a fit, while Hotaro and the gang need to catch just 2 more chemis, channeling the Goofy while Lactese is being all human-like, causing a rift to broaden between her and her sisters. The last of the two Kemis were actually together, and Gigas draws them out, just for Hotaru to snag them up, claiming all the Kemis, which makes no sense since Rine has some and so the Spanner, but if you look behind them, there are exactly 100 cards, so yeah! Showing off the new abilities just to summon some more forms. And Gigas is B, I guess. B! It did have some comedic moments that were indeed hilarious and made for some suggestive PNGs, while Lactase had some endearing plot points. 40. And there's more Abyssal Kings. And Gigas ain't even dead! Even the introduction of these additional two feels like a rush stop. Like, what the fuck is going on? Oh yeah, and they reveal that Gideon was a homunculus this whole time, and that they made him, even if they were sealed 120 years ago. But even if they were sealed for 120 years, Gideon would have been out and about for that long a period of time. And no one in the Alchemist Society questioned why this man just didn't age. Then again, we did have old buddy from the film that was over 2,000 years old, but he was just some regular dude and also would have predated all of this? Y'all, they really shat the bed when it came to all this continuity in one single episode. So, Gideon got 8, Clotho gets another power-up, and finds Fuga, followed by everyone just being there. We get the introduction to Golems, and Fuga reveals that he's the real one and that he did get injured in the very first episode, but has just been recovering since all the melty that happened. Germain reveals that Nijigan is part of the Philosopher's Stone, and I'm not even having fun with this one, so look, they just really crammed as much as they can, and it just raises more questions as it attempts to answer previous questions. Nah, this one's getting an F. 41, and quickly, I'm just dying inside. Spanner's catching L's while Gigas tries to show him the way. Writer Girl's cameo subplot amidst the cursed background that perfectly encapsulates this show as a whole. Oh yeah, and Nijigan is involved with this subplot because he decided to abandon Hotaru earlier just to avoid getting caught, but all this while Gigas tries to get Spanner to beat Germain, in which he actually does get beat, and Atropos uses his body to bring back Gideon. D for, damn, I'm just so tired of this shit. 42 and 43 follow Sabimaru and his big bro, who, as it turns out, created a Kemi when they were kids. The first episode was a bit weaker of the two, but was still pretty okay and got a B rank, while 43 gives us a good culmination of Sabimaru being just goated status. You know, even going as far as to show us him taking on Dread with the Gotcha caliber without even henching, which was some top tier shit and one of the hypest moments of the series by far. The problem is that these A-plots felt like they belonged somewhere earlier in the show, probably around the 20s somewhere. If they did that, then this would have been an S-rank episode easily, but instead, because it feels kind of lost in the weeds and a little too late, it gets an A. 44 and 45 round out Kajiki's character arc with his lady friend from earlier. And although these are good episodes, they fall into the same boat as the Sabimaru episode before them, feeling like they just came too late. They finally tackle Kajiki's constant memory wipes, but then we fall into the third Dark King, Galea's, plans of being able to revive Malgams from former users and finding Hijiri to be her crux of this world. Similar to Gigas with Spanner. 44 is a B, once again, dragging the point that these A-plots are coming a little bit later than they felt intended to, but 45 gets a C because of the ending. It kinda undoes the entire character growth of the cast, letting Kajiki regain his memories, as it ends with a storm cloud just retrieving everyone else's lost memories of the Kemis. 46 and 47 are just absolute shit shows of episodes, bringing back old Malgam users and showing people's greed towards wanting Kemis. This brings about Spanner's deep hatred of seeing humanity go down this route. with internet bloggers literally finding their way inside of the alchemist school in some sort of way, beating down Kyoka's office space also in search. Did I also forget to mention that there's this awkward father-daughter exchange with Gideon and Atropos just dressing up like Child Rine? Well, as we transition things, Spanner instantly overthrows the Alchemist Society and teams up with other high-ranking alchemists that we've never seen before or since, taking everyone's chemis. All in an attempt to essentially take them all in and go down with the ship, getting the ultimate dub. Finally ending things with a face-off with Hotaru. But, let's throw some shitty icing on this mud pie of a cake that is Hotaru's mom acting a little dodgy now that the memories have been restored. And that Atropos was actually based on Child Rine. Yeah, both of these episodes are getting Fs. 48 is Rine's episode. With Atropos captured, Gideon goes full panic mode, knowing that his daughter is going to turn into a chimera. And while Spanner heals up from the ass beat previously, he decides to try to upgrade his driver. So Gideon and Fuga travel to Galea's pocket dimension, where their rings transmute into a game of Russian roulette. The winner gets their daughter to live. And you know what would have saved this episode? Olympics guy. But instead, somehow, Hotaru's plan worked and the gun that was transmuted from their rings was actually Gotchard the whole time. So we're gonna run that back and see how this plan came together, right? Right? Yeah, no, fuck this show so much. So the girls are freed, but that just works in Gideon's favor because now he's turning Atropos into the Chimera himself. What a giant 180-degree turn. All this to make the world gold. He's still doing this. Why is he still doing this? But doing this would require Rine's life. But while Rine is about to get hit, Atropos is the one that goes down instead, granting her a brand new ring, a new driver, and a brand new form. Galea gets taken down, and her piece of the Philosopher's Stone is split between Gideon and Gigist. Yeah, it turns out he was still around. Oh boy, they are fumbling this landing. D 49, and look y'all, we are almost home. This whole back half, they've been exploring Lactis's humanity, slowly converting her into a human. This episode, she's near completion on that front, while Gideon transmutes his own chemi, which is the palette swap Nijigon, paying Hotaru a visit at the restaurant and explaining the wonders of gold, all which are fallacies because gold, for one, it's not eternal. It's a soft metal, so it's not even good for proper defense. But yes, this is when Hotaru's mom shows up and nope, has no idea who Gideon even is. So there goes that one fan theory that it was his dad. We get some time with Spanner as Valverade again, but not Lactis because they only got one of those suits lying around and they barely did anything with her in it, using chemis like they should have done from the get-go, all to avoid Gigist. But he does catch up after Clotho meets up with Den first to let Lactis know about Atropos. But Gigist throws hands on her as Dread and Spanner in Valverade. That is, until Spanner levels up his flames through the power of understanding and turns them silver, which gives him a new driver and upgraded cards and a brand new form, beating Gigist when his part of the stone gets jacked. But luckily Lactis is here and she's dead. So now with the full Philosopher's Stone, he transforms into Ugly Hot Mess, and he's got a stone gold Monado to showcase. D. Finally, the very last episode of the worst piece of shit ending for a series that I've ever witnessed. Because out of his giant Rubik's Cube in the sky, Dread Troopers proceed to splatfest the world gold. Kyoka even gets hit. Somehow Clotho finds a way onto his base and proceeds to fight him for what I could assume is either 5 minutes or 5 hours. Because within that time span, Hotaro goes to get counseling from his mom, gets lunch for him and his friends, and looks like the Dread Troopers took some sort of break because the golden just suddenly stopped. That is, until they get the memo that, hey, Hotaro and the gang are just standing outside, so let's go ahead and proceed to Splatfest. But while we're at it, why don't we just throw in also Puppets of the Abyssal Kings? During the major fight, Fuga even shows up as Kamen Rider Wind, and for some reason, he has his very own insert theme. Seriously, man only shows up like 3-4 times. He gets an insert theme on the last episode. Everyone else just shares Hotaro. Okay. Hotaro bridges up to the Rubik's Cube that Clotho was just able to access. And by the way, she got beat just in time for Hotaro to watch her die. So, yeah, here we go. Final fight. And Gideon is turning shit gold and immobile. Even Nijigan. Forcing Hotaro to bring out the Best of Forms collection just for the gold streak to accelerate. Turning everyone and everything gold. Including Hotaro. The end. Finally, sweet surrender. You know, grandfather always told me, if it ain't wet, it's your job to get it wet. And by that, I think he meant that, look, the show is not over yet. Didn't I shoot you? Infinite regenerations, my guy, happened when I landed on a distant planet when I was but a baby. I was taken in by some strange woman who saw me fall off a cliff and end up changing forms. So she then proceeded to throw me off said cliff time and time again, and eventually I forgot all about this. And as time went on, whole societies were made using my unique abilities. You know, for a while I thought I only had 12 lives, but as it turns out, certain limitations were never as it turned out to be. So, you know what? I just decided to actively choose to regenerate into the same face. And you chose that hair. Shut up. You know, as much as that story sucked ass, I'll take it over Gotchard. Because though Hotaro was turned to gold, the sheer power of determination allows him to move. Punching Gideon and transmuting a brand new Gotcha driver. Transforming into Gotchard in base. I mean, the newly, totally never before seen Ultima Gotchard, taking all the gold paint and Dread Troopers and creating a whole nother Earth right next to Earth, and punches Gideon right to that other Earth and uses the power of all the chemis to finally beat him once and for all. In the epilogue told to legend, chemis have kind of just become like Bigfoot. Even though everyone should have bared witness to them, somehow people just stopped caring. As the Alchemist School gets absolutely new students, implying that yes, people will remember what alchemists are, Rene decides to be like her dad, and Spanner continues to catch those L's. All this while Hotaro's mom reveals the lack of Hotaro's dad. Look again. When did you get bathtub? Just look again. Alright, let's see here and...
やっぱり的なと思わないお父さん
GalaxyBlade! He's the reason why this show sucks! Focus. Everyone travels to New Earth that is now the home of the chemis. Surely, no one will just go to this planet just to try to catch these guys in the future, right? And Legend passes the torch to our brand new writer, because Legend is the main character. Oh yeah, there's Hotaru. F. With these episodes of Gotchard, we get several brand new writer forms, and I'm probably just gonna give them a letter grade as we talk forms. Now hopefully I'm not forgetting anything, since this was 15 episodes worth of shit, but of course, Rainbow Gotchard. The shoulders look like boats, and look, dead on it looks decent in the face, but he's got those angles where if you go from the side shots, he just kind of looks really goofy. Twilight Majade. B. The helmet is the weakest part for me, as it's just too domey. Sure, I get that they were trying to recreate Atropos' hair in plastic, but this just ain't fantastic. Really, if they could have just changed the helmet or do a better balance of the light and dark, maybe even meeting in the middle and giving us some gray look, then it would be slightly better, but I'm not gonna even try to edit that. Valverade Kudagane, and look, this one it's an okay suit. It's like a C+, B-. It is the most cobbled together suit, reusing assets from ZO2, Gates, among other components. The silver is a good color on there, even if it is a form literally pulled out of their ass. But the light pink on the armor should have been more purple to match his old look, or at least another color to emphasize like his flames or something. But his old flames. Erudo. F. None of this shit is good. Like, his balance for the suit is just completely thrown off by the like reused aspects of X-Rex here. The driver itself is just a cheaper Dread driver that they're probably going to sell for a higher price, and once again, the lighter portions really throw things off with the pink. It should have been black, gray, or even a deeper shade of red. So, am I done yet? Ultimate Gotchard! Does this even count? It's got red driver. No, never mind. Just go away. Alright, y'all. Let's get through this with the cumulative show average rating time. Oh boy, it's that time once again. So let's see how this show properly started. Gotchard, actually, with episode 1, started off with a C-rated debut, while 2 gave us a little bit of a potential look at the future with an A. But then 3 squandered that hope by dragging it down to a D, and 4 was another C, while 5, once again, showed potential with an A. I quit doing weekly videos after this because the show was just not giving me much, with 6 being a B, 7, 8, and 9 all being C's, and 10 with an A. Then, after that, we started doing the catch-up videos, that maybe in consuming the show in vast chunks after the initial watch would prove fruitful. Maybe having hindsight of what's come after will retroactively make the past episodes better. Well, not really, as with 11, 12, they were both C's, 13 and 14 were B's, and 15 ended strong with an A rank, as I lent word of cautious optimism on the show skewing away from just a regular narrative-driven show and more focused on the human-Kemi relationship. I really thought that I had proper understanding of what the show was trying to go for. 16's review was a pending score because it relied a lot on that winter film's delivery and whether or not it warranted the tonal shifts had within the episode. Retroactively, no! The film did nothing and its explainers were shit when used within the show. It got a D, and yeah, the film did nothing, so it deserved that D. 17 initially had a B rank, but since it still had a lot of callbacks to that film, I'm actually gonna change that to a C, because, you know, why not? 18 was the end of the Daybreak arc, and the lead up to the summer film that we won't bear witness to for a few more months. It still had its moments, even if the crux of this episode, Time Lord, was shamefully found by Hotaru much later on. But that one did end up getting an A rank. 19 also got an A for that Sweet Meat episode, while 20, which gave us some really good spanner action and backstory, got elevated to the very first S within this show. 21 also got that S, while 22 gave us tonal whiplash with a C. 23 bumped it back up to a B, while 24 back down to a C. Then we bumped it back up to a B. 27 was an episode that I was hopeful towards, but it still failed to deliver, giving me a C. 28 and 29 brought things back around with tonal whiplash that was absolutely necessary with falling mannequin action, shooting up for an A rank on both, and followed by 30 and 31, which brought the optimism of what the show could be into light, with the school theme finally playing a role and character dynamics being built up. And that just gave us more A's. 4 A's back to back. Who could have imagined? You would think with all this goodwill built up that they'd learn from their lessons, right? False. Because next comes the most corporately mandated nothing portion of the show that should have been completely omitted from the show proper and left to its own devices with the Legend arc. So, here we go from bad to worse, with 32 as a C, 33 D, 34 F, and 35 another F. So now, if we tally up the scores given to us in the first part of this video, along with everything retroactively, let's round things off, shall we? Because the first part of Gotchard would have averaged a C, while the second part, a B, the third part, a C, but it honestly got saved by those Akiko episodes, and that school musical, and finally, the last part of Gotchard with a D. It was all those F's at the ends. There was only one A to even try to save it. If it wasn't for that A, together, combining all those show averages, the show would have actually ranked in a low C, being absolutely mid as fuck. And just because I was feeling a little bit masochistic, I took my score and weighed them against the equivalent from IMDb. So you can look at my scores here in red, and then here in blue are the same averages for IMDb. Though I will say that the scoring from their users dramatically went down as the show progressed, with the last 2 episodes still going unrated at the time of this recording. And although their average scores would hover around either a B or C if converted to my ranking system, it still averages a C. So, Gotchard was indeed mid as mid might go. In all honesty, this might be my least recommended writer series until it gets dethroned. Look, I've got better things to say about shows that I've disliked over what is presented or was presented here. Now, this goes by no means to the actors of the show, as what we've seen in supplemental content, they can do a lot better with better material. Could it have been the writers? Well, look, what started off with 2 head writers that gave potential to not squander the flow of the show's structure as seen previously didn't actually work out in their favor, because Akiko was brought in as a guest writer and served a little bit of a segue writer between plot points. There are times in which she was indeed cooking and others in which it still felt just very off. The show in itself felt very disjointed. Between the production staff, upper executives, and the writers, it's all over the place. On the production side of things, in terms of the visuals and the presentation of what we have with the show, there is a lot of symbolism that alludes to a greater narrative structure. Clearly, they did their research in designing the show based off of alchemic history, the context, and the mythos, with the Dark Sisters' dress attire being reminiscent of Egyptian style due to their alchemic background, and Iron Gotchard going in a similar vein. Rainbow Gotchard, specifically, I called out plenty of times for its design because it has the symbol shown on the Door of Darkness, just inverted, being present in the chest. But then narratively, none of these end up getting paid off. We have had plot points introduced, hinted at, but then either not get paid off, half-assed, or just thrown out there. Such as Hotaro's dad appearing to be a plot point early on, but never getting addressed. This leads to further confusion, as we do know that Hotaro was present in the Ouroboros realm, playing with the Kemis as a child, and the realm is only accessed by those with alchemy, which Hotaro had. But then the memory got wiped by Fuga as a child, which then the memory restoration that happened later on within the show should have actually re-triggered this entire plot device. But no, none of this ever gets brought up again. His father's goggles clearly were meant to play a larger role, given that the goggles are in Gotchard's suit design. But yes, even once again, just dropped. It's important to note that after the show had its finale air, we did get blog posts mentioning some of the creative decisions, this being one of them. And yeah, they thought to include him, but in the end scrapped it, not finding the topic interesting, and pretty much just let our imaginations do all the dirty work. I'm sorry, but this is indeed piss poor resolution to a plot device y'all introduced in the show to begin with. They also tried explaining the lore of the show and how things, such as Gigas, still appeared, despite the fact that the Door of Darkness was closed. Yeah, there was apparently a back door the whole time. Which, look, I mentioned this in previous videos where the Door of Darkness does have a real-world tie-in with the Porta Alchemica, and that the alchemic symbol shown on there does resemble two triangles, and thus the prevailing theory, at least mine, was that Hotaro would have access to the other doorway. But yeah, no. Later on, we do see that when the other Dark Kings do appear, that it's just in the shadow of the moon, and that's just straight lazy. They go on to explain that each Dark King was the founder of some sort of craft, merged but in the end were beaten by the Alchemists of the Dawn, and this was 120 years before the show. So does that mean that alchemy was created less than 200 years ago, or that these guys were just running amok for millennia before finally getting stopped? Because look, Germain is supposedly the founder of alchemy, and if you remember the Winter film, you poor soul, then you would know that the main bad guy there, who was in the show and thus canon to the events of the show, was over 2,000 years old and managed to find eternal youth via chemies and alchemy as a whole. So look, excuse me if the timetable of events just don't line up. Gigas is the creator of the chemies, but also of bloodline traits, kinda like the Kekkei Genkai of the Naruto fame, essentially alluding that Spanner is his descendant due to him sharing his dark flames, which the show does a terrible job of not just alluding, but implementing, explaining, and executing, as the power creep for these dark flames never gets shown as to why Spanner manages to evolve them in a matter of months versus a guy who had anywhere from 2,000 to 200 years to do the same. Unless shedding your humanity is the same as making Pikachu evolve into Raichu and lacking the potential for growth anymore. The relationship aspects is another thing that is a missed opportunity, as early on the show indicated a relationship forming between Hotaro and Rine. Hell, technically the show gave us a lot of ships besides that. Ringe and Sabimaru? Not there. Minato and Kyoka? Missed it by a mile. Lactis and Spanner? They attempted, but failed. And worst of all, the failure of properly paying off a proper synergy between Hotaro and Rine fundamentally kills a lot of that co-lead prospect from each other, as there really is not a whole lot of bouncing off each other to build that dynamic. Remember the early point of their names being a chemi match with the 1 and the 9? Doesn't matter. Remember later on how they tried playing off Rine as being jealous of Hotaro's new childhood friend? Nutsacked! They clearly didn't know or cared to actually make the two an item. Their writer forms don't even pair up nicely unless you count a Platino with Majade. So, what happened here? A lot of the focus went towards Atropos and Rine, which probably was the only payoff that felt somewhat organic. But in the end, it still failed to land the execution with the final form and explainer to Atropos' origins. Clotho, on the other hand, seems to have been the plan B for Hotaru in terms of pairing, as most of her dialogue exchanges that would lead to a potential growth until something intervened was always with him. Which I guess in terms of symmetry, it does make sense that each of the three sisters had a narrative with each of the three writers, but overall, it kind of left a lot to be desired. And although Kajiki had the best execution of a relationship storytelling-wise, once again, the payoff to the other actions placed around him were done a little too late. The power of determination is something used over and over and over again to showcase everyone's sudden power creeps. But what's bad about that is that it's used so often that it kind of makes the characters feel like they haven't really evolved mentally from day one, only that their powers and suits have. The power scaling and creeps between moments are just too jarring to really ignore. Seriously, Hotaru made a second Earth out of Dread Troopers and gold paint just to be a home for 101 mythical creatures. See, and that's just terrible. But once again, the staff had something for this as well, explaining away that the second Earth is actually matterless, and because of that, it would have no physical effects on the Earth, so no earthquakes, no shifting of the tides, no gravitational tidal locks, and even though this Earth should be much closer to the Earth than the Moon is, you can't see it from the skyline. It should also technically block out the sun like half of the time. So look, really, at that point, he really should have just transported the Chemis to the Ouroboros realm and found some way to properly seal off that realm, or something. We kind of got hints that Gotchard could create pocket dimensions from episode 1, yet not here. Once again, a lot of this comes in the form of us just having to use our imaginations to explain away the glaring issues this show has, as there's a whole itemized deduction tax form just filled with them. And listen, these are just my opinions, but I have talked to several others regarding this. Whether it be Discord calls after my live streams, or even last night's live stream in which I gauged the interest of the audience on the matter. And once again, this led to a vast majority just not liking the show. The tones that these shows set for themselves early on determine how I look at the show going forward. This show, however, suffered from an identity crisis and just didn't know what it wanted to be by the end of things. Look, and even then, I look for actual constructive opinions that are counter to my own, but have yet to really see results. Also, look, Tokutubers who tend to have the opposite opinions as my own choose to actively not interact with me, so there's also that as well. But look, I welcome a difference in opinions if you're willing to have a proper debate regarding the matter. Because most of the staunch defenders that I've encountered will balance the weight of one or two good things that they like over the plethora of glaring issues surrounding the rest of it. So, generally, when I end a series review, I take a moment to look back at the good times had along the way. But this time, nah. So you dying, Kabuto, or what?
What, me? No, I can't die.
So you doing Gabu with me?
Oh, no. Absolutely not. Did you know that show was
Stop
absolute?
right there. I don't need that in my life right now.
Alright, look, if anything, I'm going back to running Nintendo. And you know what? Since we're diving into entertainment media, I might make a toku or two, just to show Toei how it's done. So, look, if you don't mind, you clearly don't want to take a look back at the past, but whenever you do, you know who to hit up, because we're definitely not looking at the future. Anyway, it has dire consequences, so, see ya!
Look, overall, I'm sorry that I kind of predicted this well over a year ago when I made that bit in Don Bros episode 43, saying that the show would be absolutely mid, but hashtag Zio was right. As time goes on, we'll see if history looks at this show from the constructive lens laid out, or maybe even in a more favorable light. Really, I am critical on these shows because they've been a part of my life and fandom for well over half of my life. I've been into this medium since '93 with Power Rangers, and into Kamen Rider specifically since around '04. And I wouldn't be sticking with these shows if there wasn't some part of me that still longed for the magic that they brought. I do want these shows to do better, to keep the hype alive, and be a fundamental form of entertainment for years to come, well after I'm gone. But for a company like Toei, I really feel that what they need is proper competition in the form of other networks and big studios just making other Toku shows. This should ignite the fire on their ass and actually make them crank out magic again, because I do feel that they're coasting. So listen, Takara Tomy, Toho, and any other Japanese studios, can y'all just get other Tokus out there? Can we get another Toku renaissance going? Because nothing drives up the creativity and ingenuity more than a competitive pressure. So, we're done. This is it. I know that there's a director's cut of the final episode coming, and I'll talk about it on my live streams, probably not in a dedicated video. And then there's the Daybreak film that is still a while away from being localized, and I'm debating on making a video on that one, just depends on how it actually goes. But at this point, I've never been more forward-looking to the next entry in this franchise than I have been these last few months. So, those are my thoughts. What are yours? How was Gotchard as a whole? Please, please, please keep the comments civil. If someone likes the show, please explain with proper points, now that hindsight is indeed 2020. And for the true haters, calm it down some in the aspects of things, because look, of course, there's a lot of us that are upset over the show because of the time suck. That's time that we're not getting back. But it's not like it pissed on your cereal or something. With that said, I am finally done with this show. And with that, I will catch you on the next one. Bye.